So my first female idol was Miss Piggy. Not Miss Piggy from the Muppets. This was Miss Piggy, the Northwest Ohio go-kart racer. It was the mid-'80s. I was 8 years old, and my dad and I became addicted to go-kart racing. This was probably a year after my mom and dad got a divorce, and my dad finally started figuring out what to do with us on our every other weekend visits. So every other Saturday night, we would get into his two-door white Thunderbird car with a gigantic blue Thunderbird on the hood, and we would go off to the races. Most of the time we would go to the same racetrack, which had stadium bench seating, huge field lights, and one concession stand. We always got the same thing. Huge bucket of popcorn, Twizzlers for my sister, and my dad and I got Milk Duds. We loved Milk Duds. So the only real problem with go-kart racing, though, is that there was no real room for self-expression or, decoration on the go-karts. I mean, there was no company sponsors or anything like that. So the only way that you could really know the difference between all the go-kart racers were their helmets. Well, Miss Piggy's helmet was pink, with her name Miss Piggy in white swirly letters. I mean, she would just fly around that racetrack with her long blonde hair just flapping underneath her helmet. I mean, she was so cool competing with all those boys, and I wanted to be just like her. I mean, as a fellow girl, I was really proud of her. And so I kept telling my dad that if he got me a go-kart, I could be even faster than Miss Piggy for sure, and probably beat the fastest go-kart racer I knew, which was Mad Max. Now, I'm not 100% sure that his name was Mad Max. It probably wasn't, but in my mind, his name should have been Mad Max. I loved Mad Max too, but for completely different reasons. I wanted Mad Max to be my boyfriend. But as an 8-year-old, he was a little too old for me, so I would imagine Mad Max and Miss Piggy together the same way I would invent lives for my Barbies. So I would imagine Mad Max and Miss Piggy getting married. I would imagine Miss Piggy in a sexy white wedding dress with white cowboy boots. Her hair would be all wild from her adventurous life. And Mad Max would be waiting for her at the end of the aisle. Tall, dark, dirty from winning at the track, just waiting for her to walk up to him so he could scoop her up and kiss her passionately. Well, my first encounter with Mad Max was at the special go-kart championship in a small town in Ohio. They closed off all of their downtown streets to make as a racetrack, as, small Ohio towns do. And they put up haystacks and rope in between the street and the sidewalk. So I was standing on a corner kind of in the thick of the race, and my dad was a little further down the street, not really paying attention because he was trying to take care of his new girlfriend, who was absolutely horrified that she was spending her Saturday afternoon this way. So anyways, I'm down there on the corner of the street, and Mad Max is coming my way. Now, I kind of noticed him from the beginning because he was new, and he's heading right towards the corner, and I can tell that he's going to try to take the lead on the corner. And just as he's coming on the corner, he flips his go-kart into the haystacks and into me. Mad Max had run me over. So there I was, laying there, hay surrounding me, hearing my dad calling for me, and Mad Max hovering over me. So he picks me up, he puts me on 2 feet, and asks if I was okay. Well, I was more than okay. I mean, I was in love. I was in love with Mad Max, I was in love with Miss Piggy, and I definitely was in love with go-kart racing. I mean, I knew what I wanted my helmet to look like. It was going to be fire engine red with my go-kart name, Big Red, in swirly silver letters. I mean, the thing is that as a kid, I was a total tomboy. I was really competitive. I was into sports. I always had scrapes and bruises, and I was constantly getting in fights with boys, all usually having to do with the same neighborhood game that in my mind was just as important as the Super Bowl, if not more. But I always kind of felt shame about that, you know? I felt shame that I wasn't as shy and, you know, as nice and girly as the other girls, you know? And it's sad to say, I actually never became a go-kart racer. You know, my dad took me to like go and test out a go-kart and broke my heart when he told me he had to think about it, and then decided that I couldn't get one because I was too young. And by the time I was actually old enough to race, I wasn't really interested. But Miss Piggy changed my world. I mean, she showed me that I could compete, that I could be aggressive and still be beautiful. She inspired me.